Hello everyone, I'm working on this 462 Pacific. It's a Mantua Tyco, and I was actually really excited to get this. Um, this did not do well on the eBay auction because it has a funky paint job. Don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing the other person that did this. It's just not my taste, and probably not a lot of other people's taste because it did not do well. At any rate, we're going to repaint this today, and it runs wonderfully on the bench. Everything seems to be there. Everything's good. It's got its proper Mantua tender, so that should be a good build. In fact, I'm actually wondering, it probably runs good on the track, so let's go find out. It started running very well. I just put it on the tracks and it ran beautifully. It's having a challenge with the curves though. So I'm going to do that type of fine tuning before I paint it. There is something simple that I can do. I noticed that when the engine was turning, the pilot truck was hitting the number one driver. So I'm gonna flip this pilot truck around, and then we'll see if that helps. I broke the drawbar, so I just took a piece of plastic, drilled 2 holes in it, and that was that. This connection here is very tight. Very hard to remove and install. I'm not 100% sure I want to change anything there because that part of it is running very well. This is a craftsman type model. It is not a kid's toy. Yeah, like I said, when I got this, I was very excited. I think they come with the kit like that. They have little remnants of axles in the end here. So I'll be grinding that down. Let's just have a look at this. This is a Craftsman type of engine. Maybe there's one side that's longer than the other. We're gonna measure it out just to see. I lost my ruler, but I had the caliper handy, so that's gonna work. So as you can see, I got one side that's just a little bit longer. Oh, maybe not. They look to be pretty close. But this side here is longer, so I'll put that towards the front. Let's see if it changes anything. It looks better anyways. The only way to find out for sure is to go on the track. Yep, that's all it was. Now it runs perfectly. This engine is 90+% metal, so the weight helps with the power pickup, and it feels good in your hands. That is a nice engine. I could, I suppose, whip out my flat black paint and a paintbrush and just paint everything that's red black again. And then I would have a decent running engine in no time. But I like this engine enough to spend the time and do a really good paint job to it. It's going to be a super engine when I'm done. It's such a good runner, I don't want to take it apart. I just want to enjoy it like that. I want to be doing that today. Tomorrow I can take it apart. Well, I have been running it, and it certainly hit the spot. But now it's time to paint it. I could whip out my paintbrush and some flat black paint and just paint everything black and have it done by this afternoon and start enjoying it. But I like this locomotive enough to spend more time on it, and we're gonna do an awesome custom paint on it. Now I'm gonna make a mark on this so I know which way it goes forward. So I'm just gonna scribe an arrow here just so I remember which way is which. And that, even though I'm gonna paint this later, should still show through the paint if you make it deep enough. So that will help me remember which way is which. I'm gonna remove the pilot truck and the rear truck because that's quite obvious. The easiest thing to start with. Now this engine has a lot of metal, but there's still some plastic parts. For example, should you get a brass engine and you want to change the paint on it, it is helpful to come in and strip it before you paint it. So that I'm going to put that. I'm gonna get a box so I have all my parts together at one place. So I have this box close by that's gonna help me keep my stuff organized. And then the trailing truck, same thing. It's pretty obvious what to do. But they have interesting washers for this and that. So I want to keep track of that. And this little spring, you kinda need it, that spring. I would like to get the boiler off of this. Here's another couple of screws that look pretty obvious. I think this one will release the pilot. And they're all different size screws. Now the pilot's held in there right now by the handrails. So I'm going to want to be careful because I'm going to reuse them. They were not too hard to remove. Just have to angle them together. And these, they move around like that. I think I'm going to pull them out and just re-straighten them. These I'm using again. I'm going to paint this for CN. And when I'm done, it's going to be close enough. Okay, so the frame here is loose. That's good. There's two more screws over here. I think that's going to release the frame and the drive system from the boiler. There's also a light which works, by the way. I was looking at that yesterday, enjoying running that. So we'll see if I'm able to get the I'm putting all my things that I remove, I'm putting them all in order. So that was for the pilot, so I'll put the pilot with it. And then this one, I'm gonna have two screws for the cab support. I think on these the cab is plastic. So you have a metal boiler and a plastic cab. So because I've never done this type of engine before, I am taking a little bit more time. I've got to have the crosshead come also. I need all the valve gears to stay together and to have the cross head come with everything. There could be a screw up top. Sometimes they do that. Yes, this screw probably holds the cross head together. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, there's a lot of vocabulary involved with engines. So this screw is going to go with my cab support. Oh yeah, I got everything coming. Everything's coming out. And I have the 2 wires for the light. I would like that if I can get the light to come out. That would be awesome. That headlight is stuck in there good. Also the counterweight is stuck in there good. So I'm going to paint it like that. So I'm looking at my valve gear and the quartering is off quite a bit. When these drivers, when the rod's on the bottom like that, on this side, actually no, it's not that bad. It's actually okay, it's just very loose. But no, this is okay. You can see it's very loose. And I am going to remove the wheels from the frame for sure to clean it. I'm going to see if I can remove the crosshead also. Let's have a better look at this. So the connecting rods is just little hex drives, XX bolts. So these just screw out like that. That's not too hard. And then this one also is a hex bolt. So we'll remove that one too. And then I'll put it in my box for safekeeping. So that is called the excenter crank. And the excenter rod. There's a lot of lubrication on there. I'm not going to re-lubricate it, but I am going to clean it as I go. So maybe doing the same thing here, removing the little pin, and then the same with the rod there. I put everything in my box so I don't lose anything. As I go, I play around with the pistons just to make sure that everything is where it should be, and I don't have to sort anything out. You can see the excenter crank is crooked a little bit. I'm going to see if I can straighten this out. That would be nice if I could. So I'll just work it with my pliers like that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it was already running very well, so there's no point in crying or complaining about this. Some of this detail, you're the only person that sees it anyhow. I'm going to do the exact same process on this side. Just remove one part at a time. One of the rods is crooked, so that can't be good. And maybe it's not major because it was running well, but since I have it in my hands, now is the time to straighten it. I'm going to keep working on this a little bit. Not 100 times perfect, but it's better. At this point, the crosshead with all the valve gear will come. And then I've got my frame and my wheels. And this all comes apart again. So that also is a good opportunity to straighten out everything. This side too should be pretty easy to come out. I didn't have my crosshead all by itself. Mantua, that's gonna help me clean everything. Well, as the old saying goes, if you're having fun, then you're doing it right. So I'm gonna remove this plate. That lets me get in there, take a look at the wheels. And last time I checked, the quartering was good. So when I start repainting, some of it I'll be doing with a spray can. Some of it I'll be doing with my paintbrush. I'm also, I don't know if this is going to be painted for CN. So I don't know if you've ever looked at the picture of a CN steam engine in the day when they were using them on the main line. They were always kept clean, and they always did top maintenance on the CN engine. And the reason is, in Canada, the distances are great. It's a lot less expensive to do the maintenance than to have to send out another engine to go get the broken engine. So they did always top maintenance. CP rail, the same thing, but the CN was the cleanest. Then I can get to my wheels. Just leave that on its side for a second. So that's going to make it easy to clean the wheels. The quartering is done right, so that's not a problem. And you can see this is a number 1 driver, number 2 driver, number 3 driver. You can see the number 2 driver is a blind driver, so that helps you go around curves. So you can see there's no flange here. So that's okay. I can live with that. I'm not changing that. I'm just going to remove that little screw there. Don't need that anymore. I'm not 100% sure what it did, but it did something. So yeah, that has to get cleaned, and I'll paint only the portion that I can see. That's really going to be painted by the paintbrush. So I'm going to get my rag out, and we'll clean out these wheels. The person that painted this red, I'm surprised because everything else is ship shape. And I had no problems, even though the wheels are very, very dirty. I had no problems with electrical pickup. I'm especially surprised because the tender is very dirty. So yeah, CN, they kept their engine clean, and they did the white tires on everything. You could see them when they were driving around. Everything was kept very neat. Already starting to look much better. I did buy some paint pens because I'm gonna paint the white tires on this. Alright, I'm gonna continue cleaning the wheels off camera. Oh yeah, this fell off. This little brass bearing fell off the axle. So that's good to know. I better make sure I put it back. They all have their little bearings. I want to keep the bearing in place there, just for now. Just so I can keep them organized and I can know which axle has which bearing. Oh yeah, that's a good quality engine. And there's your motor and the gearbox from the worm gear. Since everything was running so good, I don't really need to get in there. This is good enough for the disassembly for what I need to get done. So about the only thing I need to worry about is the cab, which is probably made out of plastic, whereas the rest of the unit, there's a lot of metal in this. I'm gonna see if I can remove it and not break anything, because that would be bad. As I work on it, it seems very metallic. There's even some scratches I'll show you in a second, where you can see it's probably metal. So I'm gonna leave it on there, because with my tools I got a lot of horsepower. I can break many things. I'm just gonna leave it on there, not take a chance. You can see the scratches here. It feels very much like metal. So I'm gonna leave it like that. All this other thing, which should be shiny, you know, generator, bell, pop valves, that too can just stay there for now. The bell, I wish I could remove it. It's nice and shiny. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna probably just tape around it. That would be worthwhile. I'm almost ready to start removing the paint, but I'm gonna make it even further easier for me by removing the motor and the little worm gear out of here. Let me just grab the proper screwdriver for that. Oh, this screw's a little bit tough. So basically now I'm gonna strip down the whole engine. Now if I use brake fluid, it takes a couple of days to get this stripped down. If I use a furniture stripper, then you're looking at a couple of minutes. Now you can only use the furniture stripper on metal parts. If you try to use it on plastic parts, it will melt the plastic down. Sometimes if you want to remember which screw goes where, you just put it right back where you found it. Other than keeping it in a box, that's another good technique to remember where your screws are. The previous owner finagled something for the rear coupler. I mean, I had it on the tracks running, this setup, though it looks a little weird, it works very well. So I'm going to be keeping that just like that. That worked so very well. Not making any changes. But I have to be careful with my stripper. There's a little plastic part of this setup. Yeah, this tender is all metal except for the coupler. I'm going to keep this all together so I don't lose it. And I can use, I have to be careful not to put any stripper on that. And my made up drawbar, like I said before, I just took a piece of plastic from an old package and I put 2 holes to it. And that also, I had this tested on the track. Works very well. Doesn't look like much, but it works. Yeah, in order to get, you can get monetized on YouTube. It's pretty easy, but in order to get money, you have to have a website. And I wasn't able to set up my website. The tender has a code the previous person added, so that I'm not going to strip that down. That is a keeper. In fact, there's a little patch missing there. I'm going to see around the end if I can patch this up maybe. So this part here, I'm leaving it like that. There's a little bit, I don't know if it's messed up paint or corrosion here, that when I put the stripper on, it'll either go back to being perfect or it will show the corrosion. But with the stripper, you have to be extremely careful. Anything that's plastic is gonna melt away, so you have to be careful with that. Oh, that was on there tight. This tender, I'm not sure I super like it, but the way the engine was running, it was good. Very surprised there. And on my Dreyfus Hudson video, I don't know if you heard me complain, but I thought it was a really expensive tender, although I have to admit that it's good. Oh, look at that, I got a little bit of lint on the wheel. So that's bad, I don't want that around. And there's some more over here. Yeah, it never hurts to take your engines apart to clean them. On the front side, I think I didn't have too much lint, but obviously this engine's been around. So that too, that I think is also a bunch of lint. That's no biggie. If you put the lint on the stripper, it will just melt away, just like Drano. And you have to wear gloves and glasses because it melts away your skin. So yeah, I'll get rid of this lint later. So also I'm going to put the little screws back where they go. That way it won't be difficult to find the right screw. One time I took my my 69 Charger when I was in when I just finished high school. I had the 69 Dodge Charger, and I took that apart. I took the fenders off and the doors off and the hood and the bumper. There's a valance panel on a 69 Charger and all the grill and the headlights. So that took a weekend to take that apart. Took a weekend, and then I just fixed the rust, painted everything. You guys, you go to a car show and you look at a 69 Dodge Charger and you say, oh my God, that's such a good car. But really, these cars had major rust problems. The worst. And if that's why they're so valuable, because if you can find one that's in a condition where it's even safe to drive, that's worth big bucks, because it's so rare because of the rust. Anyways, trains, they stay inside the house, so they got it good. So avoid getting paint on your plastic parts. That would be bad. So yeah, putting the car together took 6 months because I had to look for all the bolts to get the correct bolt at the correct place, and I put it all in a bucket, and that was a nightmare. But I made it through. I drove the car for a couple of years. I had just the best time driving that car. So that's the way, that's my suggestion to you. Keep track of which screw goes where. Of course, I have the video so I can remember that. Next step is the stripper. So I'll be using furniture paint remover, and I'll use an old paintbrush from the dollar store, and then I'll start applying this to my engine. So wear your hand protection and your eye protection. This thing, it eats through plastic, and it eats through your skin. So you definitely want to be careful with that. So that works very quickly. And be careful not to apply it on any plastic parts. And so this melts plastic, also melts your skin and your eyes, so keep it, be sure to have all your protection. So brake fluid does the same job, but it takes a couple of days, where this takes a couple of minutes. I bought one that was kind of a paste. It's not instant, but still works pretty quick. I'm gonna put some on this red paint here. It can go on the brass bell. That will just clean it up really good. And then I'll put some on this red paint. This red paint really is the thing that was bad about this. It should have been painted black. That would have completely changed the whole engine. So I'm going to keep working on this off camera. So I let that work for about 5 minutes. You can see it's a dramatic change. I'm going to keep letting it work for a little bit. Let's find out if that big blotch on the back of the tender, if that was did a bit of oxidation. You can see I'm staying away from the coal. If it was a bit of oxidation or if it was just bad paint. We're gonna know pretty quick here. Actually, it's gonna be great. There's some file marks down here, but there's no oxidation, so that's all good news. So that's gonna clean up very well. And then once you're happy with the paint removal, you can neutralize all this stuff with some water. The tender was basically some flat surfaces, so that went very quickly. Things are moving right along, so I got my boiler all done. These two wires desoldered themselves while I was handling it, but that's okay. I'll resolder them later. So you can see here there was a repair done on the cap corner. I'm not touching it, I'm going to leave it just like that. The guy spent a lot of time and effort to do that. Once it's painted black, it probably won't be looking too bad. And then my frame is done. So that has to be all black because you can see through the wheels. And this too, you can see this very well. That has to be painted black. But I'm gonna leave the mechanical parts free. That I am. And then I'm getting ready to work on my pilot truck. I am gonna do white tires on this. I bought a Sharpie pen, a white Sharpie pen, and that makes it real easy to do the tires. But while I was setting up to do this, I saw that one of the wheels is different. So this wheel is different from this wheel and these three wheels. So I'll be supplying my own wheels for this. I'm gonna take this apart. And I wanna keep everything together still, because when it's time to put it back together, I don't wanna be looking for which screw goes where. So I'm keeping everything together. And then I think I can spread this apart. Oh, they're on there tight. Yeah, I think I can spread this apart then introduce my own wheels. So I found some Athearn wheels. The axles are too big. I've got to go and find something else. I have a lot of different axles from a lot of different manufacturers, but they're all too big. So I guess I'm gonna have to live with this being three of a kind and one of another kind. I'm still gonna be doing the white tires on them. I looked at a bunch of pictures of CN engines yesterday, and interestingly enough, they would only do the pilot truck and the main driver is white, and that was consistent across quite a few units. So I've got this crosshead all stripped out. I've got the pilot beam with the ladders all stripped out. So everything's shaping up now. Yeah, I couldn't find in my boxes any wheels that had very small axles like this. So I'll be reusing these. I'll clean them up nice before I put them back together. And I'll show you my paint pen. We're gonna do the white tires on these. German engines have all red wheels, and I think the frame is red too. These paint pens make this type of work very easy. That should be a very painful thing to do that. And with the paint pen, it's a joy, a real joy. It's the same deal with the main drivers. These, there's one side that's insulated and one side that's bringing power to the locomotive. I was really curious how it was done. There's a very, very thin piece of plastic around the main part of the wheel and touching the tire. So that's how they did it. Very, very clever, I thought. And again with the paint pen, makes it super easy. Barely an inconvenience. So I've got all drivers, I've got to do all the drivers like that, and I've got to do also all the wheels for the tender. Although in the pictures I saw, CN did not do the tender with white tires. Okay then, so everything has been stripped out. Everything's ready to get painted and put back together. I'm gonna end the video like this. I need another week to get this done. So I hope you enjoyed the video. See you in part 2.